This is all a cover for the fact that I was right last July when I said that I suspected this man was known to the authorities. He was. Prevent, the anti-terrorism group, didn't do their job. The truth was denied from us. The police were told they couldn't tell us about the man's background. Now we learn even the Conservative Party front bench knew the truth. No one was told, despite on previous occasions us all knowing whether the person had been known to the authorities. This murderer is a terrorist, even if Keir Starmer won't call him it. And frankly, what we're seeing is one of the biggest cover-ups in the history of our country.
Breaking right now, the political fallout from the Southport massacre and Axel Rudikabana's 52-year sentence grows by the hour. Nigel Farage, the Reform UK leader, who in fairness was one of the politicians, actually one of the only politicians brave enough to question the cover-up right back last July, is on the attack versus the Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner. He posted on X, "I questioned whether the Southport attacker was known to authorities and linked to terrorism. Our Deputy Prime Minister accused me of stoking up conspiracy theories. The time has come for Angela Rayner to apologise." And of course, it wasn't just Angela Rayner. It was Good Morning Britain. It was LBC. It was all of them. But I think perhaps this is the most egregious example from her.
And she can find footage of me taking Nigel Farage on about that poster that he did that time, you know, trying to stir up
with the row of people behind him.
With the row of people trying to stir up problems and troubles.
No, he wasn't. It's true.
And he's an MP now.
And that is the point, really. As a member of Parliament, he must understand that you have a level of responsibility. You're a community leader. You're elected to represent your constituency, and therefore you have a level of responsibility with that. And it's not to stoke up what conspiracy theories or what you think might have happened or lean it into what you think. Actually, there's a responsibility to say the police are doing a difficult job. Local authorities, all of the services that are on the ground, we want to establish facts as soon as possible.
Conspiracy theories. Well, Angela, love, if they were conspiracy theories, then you had a duty to come out and say, actually, a lot of the stuff that I'm being reading online isn't true. Here are the facts.
And Nigel Farage definitely agrees with Darren Grimes on that. In his letter to Angela Rayner, he has said, "I'm writing to ask you to apologise, not to me, but to the millions of Britons that you deliberately misled in choosing such an inappropriate moment to spread misinformation. By choosing to make such nakedly political points at a time of national vulnerability, you undoubtedly contribute to the civil unrest that ensued. As Deputy Prime Minister of this country, you have a duty to respond responsibly and not ironically create fake news by criticising others for stirring up fake news when they have done no such thing. I've no doubt that you would like to take this opportunity to correct the record." Connor Tomlinson of Tomlinson Talks on Lotus Eaters and the Deprogrammed podcast with the New Culture Forum. Your reaction to this growing Southport cover-up row between Nigel Farage and Angela Rayner?
Could you imagine if we didn't have the 5 Reform MPs that we've got and this horrific act had happened? Who would be talking about it? Kemi Badenoch decided not to make a question at all during the last PM.
Disgraceful.
It's a complete missed open goal. It's almost like a complacency has descended on all politicians, as if a small aspect of the schools bill is somehow more important than. Well, we know the fact that Keir Starmer would have known about the possession of the Al-Qaeda manual and likely the ricin almost immediately after the search on the 29th, and then would have known about the terror charges brought by the Crown Prosecution Service 2 weeks before they were actually announced. So yes, he did conspire in a cover-up, and that entire time continued to call people far right. And remember, Nigel, who has acted unimpeachably throughout this entire thing, frankly, Nigel was having it pinned on him just for raising the question that we didn't know all there was to know about this so-called quiet Welsh choir boy. And they were trying to call it the Farage riots. State stooges like James O'Brien were trying to have him censored and locked up as somehow complicit for inciting violence when he did nothing but simply raise completely legitimate, and it turns out accurate, questions. Though I wouldn't hold my breath for a reply from Angela Rayner, because I think this is the reason an inquiry has been launched. They are hoping that an inquiry drags out and drip feeds the release of information to the extent that public outrage dies down, it passes into memory, and apathy sets in. And by the time that any calls for resignations can reach their fever pitch, well, Labour's got most of its legislative agenda done anyway, and so it's just a changing of the guard and business as usual. I think, frankly, Reform should really put the screws on here, and whether he gets shut down, censored by Sir Lindsay Hoyle or not, makes a stink about this in Parliament.
Exactly.
Go rogue.
Take it to Parliament now, because so far I agree he's been completely brilliant on this issue. And obviously we've criticised Nigel on some things for maybe not going hard enough, but on this issue he has been brilliant. And he is keeping up the pressure on social media, specifically towards this ludicrous diversion of trying to blame Amazon. Watch this and I'll get you to react off the bat, Connor.
So my son says it's the Amazon killer because the 17-year-old Axelar bought the knife online through Amazon. This is utter nonsense. Every kitchen drawer has half a dozen weapons that could be used for mass murder. The government are saying they're bringing tough legislation. This is all a cover for the fact that I was right last July when I said that I suspected this man was known to the authorities. He was. Prevent, the anti-terrorism group, didn't do their job. The truth was denied from us. The police were told they couldn't tell us about the man's background. Now we learn even the Conservative Party front bench knew the truth. No one was told, despite on previous occasions us all knowing whether the person had been known to the authorities. This murderer is a terrorist, even if Keir Starmer won't call him it. And frankly, what we're seeing is one of the biggest cover-ups in the history of our country. We're living in two-tier Britain. It's a disgrace, and I'm going to fight against it hard.
And I just say to that, Connor, I just say hear, hear. Literally, good work. Thank God we have Reform in Parliament. I completely agree with you.
Very much so. It's very important to notice that housewives, Boy Scouts, and Sikhs don't go on mass stabbing sprees despite having a bladed article to hand at all times. And this attempt to pin it on Bezos, I mean, frankly, I think Bezos should look for legal action against the Sun for this, because Amazon are not responsible, because these types of weapons, alcohol, etc., do actually have age verification checks on their website. So yet again, this isn't the fault of big tech, which of course Keir Starmer would like to pin it on as the pretext to censor it. We already saw how he was trying, and Morgan McSweeney, his chief of staff, the foundation he created, the Centre for Countering Digital Hate, were trying to shut down Elon Musk's X during the American election. He obviously wants to do this, but the real villain is not Jeff Bezos. It's again Axel Rudopakana's parents. Because how did Rudopakana buy the knife? How did he bypass the age verification? Whose debit or credit card did he use? Their negligence got these children killed, and yet again they should be deported.
And should there be other criminal charges potentially? Because again, what I hate in this case is the complete cone of silence. I mean, let's just assume, Connor, let's assume his parents were the good guys here and they had reported him to the police multiple times. I mean, we know the police were at his house at least 5 times. Then tell us, you know, if these parents were actually heroes of the peace in some way, tell us. If not, as you say, deport them. But it's not just Labour going completely mad over this. The mainstream media are doing everything possible to try and somehow now pin this on Elon Musk and Donald Trump. James O'Brien, I think he's actually more deranged than ever. I really worry about what he's drinking, but have a look at this, Connor. I'll get your reaction. But first, the reason you're watching this show is because you know that these days it's almost impossible to trust the mainstream media or the so-called fact checkers who claim to patrol social media. And I mean, that's for a very good reason, given what we've seen today with the Southport massacre, or Brexit, or COVID, or the demonization of Donald Trump. So I have the solution. Today's sponsor, Ground News, created by a former NASA engineer to provide you with the only safe way to consume the headlines. Go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out for yourself. But I want to actually show you, the best thing to do here is show you this incredible website and app in action. So what we're going to do is take the recent story of Elon Musk's fallout with Nigel Farage over Tommy Robinson, which the left-wing legacy media tried to whip up to destroy all all three men. And you can see very clearly on Ground News, which collates the 230 sources all in one place. And it instantly shows how the story is being covered by the media, broken down whether those media organizations lean left or right, illustrated by this bias distribution service. And then if you scroll down, you can see every article about the topic broken down by the political position and ownership of the publication. So in this case, you can see quite clearly that Fox News gave a fair analysis compared to Mediarite and The Independent, which most certainly did not, lambasting the men as morons with big egos, actually looking into why, without actually looking into why, why the split happened, how it could be resolved. But what's more is Ground News actually gets to know you personally, providing you with the news stories you're interested in, while also analysing your own biases and coming up with potential blind spots you may not have heard about. And I know if you're like me, you love the news, but you don't trust the legacy media. So Ground News gives you the tools to understand the truth about what is going on in the world. I can tell you it is the only way. I read the news now. I have the app on my phone and allows me to see through media bias and manipulative narratives. No more relying on MSM bias to define the truth for you. So go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out. You can subscribe through my link for 40% off the Vantage plan, which is what I use for unlimited access. Thank you, Ground News. And remember, Ground News is subscriber funded, and supporting it also supports my work too. So for less than a Netflix subscription, you can get all the world's news in one place and think for yourself. It's been a game changer for a news junkie like me. So that is ground.news/outspoken. But now back to the show.
It was on Amazon that the Southport killer bought his knife. Amazon, of course, is owned by Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos was sitting in the row behind Donald Trump at the latter's inauguration. The man who owns the platform that still hosts and holds the footage that the Southport killer looked before he set off to that Taylor Swift dance class. He was not just sitting in the row directly behind Donald Trump. He is the guy that got on stage and did the Nazi salutes. So I am not given to hyperbole, but the aligning of these planets is at the very least notable. But what the hell can a British government do to rein them in? Because that is the fight that they've picked.
I mean, Connor, it's clearly ludicrous, but can you decode that or dismantle it in any way?
He's either insane or the most disingenuous, disgusting liar on the planet.
It's the latter. It's the latter.
Yeah,
it's definitely
quite.
the latter.
Either way, I think he should be in a padded cell rather than a radio studio. And I think his dwindling listenership will put him there. Anyway, it's very circuitous to try to connect Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump with a deranged second-generation Rwandan who was clearly inspired by anti-white hatred and Islamist material. I think O'Brien is just trying to use the deaths of these girls to make a circuitous political point, and I think that makes him one of the most craven, disgusting opportunists imaginable.
Yes, here. I could not have put it better myself. That is absolutely true. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.